Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Madhavananda Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat
Pranam,
Pranam.
Prabhuji.
Okay. So dear devotees, we will get started with today's session with His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu. And as you know, today is the auspicious occasion of disappearance of Srila Haridas Thakur. So His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu has kindly agreed to enlighten us on this occasion. And the topic of today's discussion will be the classroom of separation from Guru in the School of Tears. Just a brief introduction about His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu. Introduction. Prabhu joined ISKCON in 1982 in ISKCON Los Angeles. Excuse me. And he has been living in India, especially in the land of Odisha for past 28 years. And he is initiated by Srimad Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj. And based on his instruction, which he took as his life and soul for his mission, is basically to edit the lectures of Srimad Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj into the publications. And for the past 20 years, Prabhu is the director of Gopal Jiu Publications. He is also the editor of Sri Krishna Karnamitha magazine, and also the fortnightly digital magazine Sri Krishna Kathamrita Bindu. And Prabhuji is also the founder of GORA, which is basically Gaudiya Odia Research Association and branch of Bhakti Vedanta Research Center. And Prabhu has got an enormous task of maintaining more than 4,000 spiritual books and very rare collection of books in Odia, Bengali, and English. And Prabhu resides in Jagannath Puri along with his wife, Krishna Kundu Mataji. So I would humbly request all the devotees to please enthusiastically welcome His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu by loudly chanting Hari Bol 3 times.
Hari Bol! Hari Bol!
Hari Bol!
So Madhavananda Prabhu, I'll turn over the mic to you and I'll stop the screen share and then we can get started, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bajrami Prabhu. I appreciate that. Hare Krishna. So it's nice to see the devotees in Seattle. I was a president in Seattle when we purchased a property there in Sammamish. And later Hari Vilas Prabhu has developed it so wonderfully. And it's also nice to see all the devotees here. Not Ashwin causes trouble sometimes?
No, Prabhu, he's a very nice devotee.
Okay, that's good. We should be careful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and start something.
Yes, Prabhu.
I'll just say a few prayers to begin. Gora Graganya Gana Go to Goloru Haram Goranga Guratama Gopyara Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Goranga Hridaya Dadiya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Je Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Vidana Parama Pumarta Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo namaste. Mudgavirapi Gopala, Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jodi, Tadaiva Sambraya Pidva Risha Yustat Priya Janaha, Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya, Sasanatana Rupaka, Gopala Raghunatapta Brajabala Bapahimam, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhyahevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'd like to speak a little something today to you about Haridas Thakur, and we titled this discussion the classroom of separation from Guru in the School of Tears. So we consider Jagannath Puri to be like the Braj University, Jagannath Puri University of Braj Prem. And each one of the different tirthastalis or place in here is considered to be like a classroom, teaching us a particular lesson by which we can, in bhajan, by which we can attain Braj. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said that Jagannath Puri is Vipralamba Ketra, the place of separation. And Haridas Thakur, we can say that that's the classroom of separation from Guru, and this is the School of Tears. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gives one entire chapter to the disappearance of Haridas Thakur. It's quite an amazing thing. There's no other chapter like that in Chaitanya Charitamrita where he dedicates an entire chapter to the disappearance of one personality. Krishna Kun, it's not coming on, and I switched the batteries and it's still not coming on. You could look in the cupboard there. There's some new batteries you could try. I'm sorry. He gives a Mangalacharana verse for this chapter, which he does for each and every chapter. And he says, Namami Haridasam Tan Chaitanyam Tam Chatat Prabhum Sangstitham Apiyang Mutyam Swanke Kritva Nanarti Yaha. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Haridas Thakur and his master Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who danced with the body of Haridas Thakur on his lap. We're friends with a Mahant at Siddhabakul here in Jagannath Puri, very nice, gentle person. His name's Srinivas Maharaj. And he, some years ago, he shared with us a pranam mantra that they use for Haridas Thakur there. Very nice verse. Chatur Muko Jagat Karta, Chatur Veda Parayanaha, Haridasa Kalo Jata Brahmanam Tvam Namamyaham. That I offer my pranams to Haridas Thakur, who's Chatur Mukha Jagat Karta. He's a four-headed personality who's Jagat Karta, the creator of the universe. He's Chatur Veda Parayana. He's the knower of the four Vedas. And Haridasa Kalo Jata, he took birth as Haridas Thakur in Kali Yuga. So it's a very auspicious occasion to meditate on Haridas Thakur and to pray for his mercy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he kindly gave us this Gaudiya Panjika, or calendar, and he's the one who put different appearance days and disappearance days on this. And by glorifying these personalities, we can get some blessing from them on this day. It said that Vaishnavera Gunagan, Korile Jivera Tran, Sunayachi Guru Mukhi, Guru Sadhu Guru Mukhi, that I've heard from the lips of Sadhu Guru that Vaishnavera Gunagan, Korile Jivera Tran, if you glorify a Vaishnav, then you'll be delivered very easily. Krishna will be very pleased with you and you'll get his mercy. So I'd like to sing with you a song that we printed some years ago in our Krishna Katamrita Bindu magazine. Have you got it fixed up so that I can share here? Oops. Let's see. I've got two different, yeah, you did. Thank you. So this is something we printed in Bindu. It's from a rare Bengali book that we found some years ago. And the song is Haridas Thakur Mahima. And we don't know who the actual author of this song is. It's not uncommon for Vaishnavas to not give the name of the author. But I'll go ahead and sing this, and you can kind of follow along. Jaya Jaya Prabhu Mora Thakur Haridasa. Jaya Jaya Prabhu Mora Thakur Haridasa. Jekorila Harinamo Mahima Prakasha. He says it twice. He says, Jaya Jaya Prabhu Mora. He's Mora Prabhu. He uses this word Mora, which is not a contemporary Bengali word, but it is an Odia word. Actually, interestingly, if you look at the language of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's more Odia than it is Bengali in many ways, more old Odia than it is contemporary Bengali. Jaya Jaya Prabhu Mora Thakur Haridas. He's my Prabhu. And why? Jai Korila Harinam Mahima Prakash. He manifested the glories of chanting the holy name of Krishna. And he did that by his own example of chanting so many rounds, and also by his dedication to the holy name. On one occasion, some of the Muslims, they came and they complained about Haridas Thakur. And the Chankazi called for him and he said, what's going on? I know your father and your grandfather, you come from a very good family. Why are you taking up this Hindu tradition when you come from such a good family? And he said, look, I'll be kind to you. You just stop chanting Hare Krishna and we'll just forget all about it. And Haridas Thakur said, I'm not going to stop chanting. And the Chankazi told him, if you don't stop chanting, they were going to have to cut your body to pieces. And Haridas Thakur replied, Kanda, 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 hoy deha, jai jari pran, tabu ami vadanena chari harina. He said that it's okay, what can I do? I'm just a skinny little Hare Krishna devotee. I can't fight against you guys. He said, but you can cut my body into all the pieces that you want and take away my life. Kanda Kanda Hayi Deha. Deha means a body. Jaya Jari Pran. You can take away my pran. But Taba Ami Vadaniya Chari Harinam. Each and every one of the pieces of my body, they'll keep chanting Hare Krishna. You can't stop me from chanting. So the poet goes on to describe the glories of Haridas Thakur. Gora Bhakta Gana Madhye Sarva Agraganya Jara Guna Gai Kande Apane Chaitanya. He says that of all the different devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, amongst the Gora Bhakta Gana, Madhye Sarva Agraganya, Haridas Thakur, amongst all of them, Agraganya, he's the best. Jara Guna Gai Kande Apani Chaitanya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally glorified Haridas Thakur. And he began to cry when Haridas Thakur left this world. And then he gives some example again of this. Advaita Chanja Prabhu Prema Singha Teno Se Janera Haridasa Mahima. He says that Advaita Charja Prabhu, he's Prabhu Prema Singha. He's Prema Singha. He's like the last limit love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's a personality, Teno se janera Haridasa Mahima. He's a personality who can understand the Mahima, the glories of Haridas Thakur. And there's a famous story in this regard that when Advaita Acharya was performing the Shrad Patra for his father, I believe it was, on that day you're supposed to feed the Brahmins. But on that day, he called for Haridas Thakur, who was supposedly born in a Muslim family, and he fed and gave worship to Haridas Thakur. So we can understand something about Haridas Thakur through the eyes of Advaita Acharya, who's such a great personality. Nityananda Chanda Jare Pranahena Jane Charana Paraye Mahi Deha Danya Mane Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Nityananda Chanda Jara Pranahena Jana. That Haridas Thakur, his prana is Nityananda Prabhu. He's his life and soul. He knows, Jani, he understands that the glories of Nityananda Prabhu because he sees how dedicated Nityananda Prabhu was to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were co-preachers in the adventure of trying to deliver Haridas to Jagai and Madai. And he says that Charana Parayu Mahi Deha Danyamani, that just touching the ground of this world, Haridas Thakur, he's made this earth auspicious. Such a personality is Haridas Thakur. So many different songs are there glorifying Haridas Thakur. I'll sing another couple lines. This is from a famous song here in Puri. This is a Sri Keta Parikrama Kirtan, which mentions Haridas Thakur twice. Gadadhara Srinivasa Haridasa Pran Nityananda Advaitera Kabu Avastan. The Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gadadhara Srinivasa Haridasa Pran. He's the life of Gadadhara Pandit Srivas Thakur and Haridas Thakur. Nityananda Advaita Kabu Avastan is situated in the hearts of Nityananda and Advaita. Siddhabakul Jai Haridasa Thakura Rashanaya Nitya Sada Sri Nama Madhur. He says all glories to Siddhabakul, all glories to Haridas Thakur. Rashanaya Nitya Sada, on his tongue, Sada Sri Nam Madhur, the sweetness of the holy name is dancing constantly. So Haridas Thakur is such a personality. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to give the holy name. And Haridas Thakur is a very, very important part of that. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he didn't come alone. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is given a wonderful article called The Associates of Sri Chaitanya. And he says there that the associates of Sri Chaitanya are constituents of himself. They're parts of himself. And he says that the appearance of Godhead in this world implies a co-appearance of all his divine paraphernalia. Godhead must not be conceived as in any way separable from his entourage. So when Haridas Thakur appeared in this world before the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Srila Prabhupada came to America, we could understand they didn't come alone. And by Srila Prabhupada coming to America, we can understand that Krishna is coming to America in the form of the holy name. By Haridas Thakur appearing in this world, we understand Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is appearing. He says you can't separate the devotees from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So although Haridas Thakur appeared to be coming from a very low birth, we don't judge him in that particular way. We understand rather that Haridas Thakur, in his previous birth, was Lord Brahma. And we know that he kind of sort of made a big mistake. In the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, we hear about the Brahma Mohana Leela and how Lord Brahma, he was hearing from different people that Krishna was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Lord Brahma had some doubt about that. How is that possible? This little boy, he doesn't even know which hand to eat with. He was watching Krishna along with the cowherd boys, and Krishna was holding some flat rice and dahi in his left hand. And Lord Brahma is thinking, he doesn't even know the rules, regulations. How is it possible that this is Bhagavan? So he decided to test him. And so he kidnapped all the cows and all the calves that they were herding. And when the boys saw that they were disturbed, Krishna told them, no, diddy, you just sit down, have your lunch. It's okay. I'll be right back in a minute. I'll go find the cows. And Krishna went searching. And while Krishna was gone, then Lord Brahma kidnapped the boys. And he took them away just for one moment of his time. But then he thought, maybe I'm making a mistake. I should see what's going on. And as we know the story, he came back and he found that all the cows and the cowherd boys were still there. He didn't understand Krishna had expanded himself. And then later, Krishna showed his Chatur Bhuj Murti, his forearm form of each of those different boys, his Narayan form, that actually these boys are all expansions of me. And Lord Brahma then had some attitude adjustment. He understood that I made a very big mistake. And he came and started praying to Krishna. And Krishna told him, hey, don't worry, it's okay. You're like the temple president of the universe. Things happen, it's okay, I forgive you. But Haridas, Lord Brahma, wasn't satisfied with that. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Navadvip Mahatmya in chapter 5, he describes the exchange at that time between between Lord Brahma and Krishna. And Lord Brahma prayed to Krishna at that time. Brahma Bhuri Dure Jai Hena Janma Pai Tomara Sangete Take Tava Guna Gai Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. He said, that's not good enough. He said, Brahma Bhuri Dure Jai, I have this big abhiman of being Lord Brahma. And if you take away that abhiman, that I'm Janmapai, I'm the creator of everything, and you give me some of your association, Tomar Sangete Taki, Tava Gunagai, then I can properly glorify you. In Sanatana Goswami's Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he describes how Narad Muni is going from place to place, glorifying different personalities as being the greatest devotee. And at one point he comes to Lord Brahma and he says, you are the best devotee, Dad. Not only you're my father, but you're just such a great devotee of Krishna. And Lord Brahma at that time says, no, you don't understand. And he speaks a wonderful few verses. He says, Tanmayaya eva satatam jagatoham guru prabhu. I have this problem. You see, the first problem that I have is that I'm always in Maya. Tanmayaya eva satatam. Because jagatoham guru prabhu. I think I'm the creator of the universe. I think I'm the guru. I think I'm in charge of everything. I think that I'm a great tapasvi. I'm doing so many different things. And because of this, I'm completely in Maya. As one devotee has commented, what was his name? It's not coming to my mind. That what is the difference between Lord Brahma and Haridas Thakur? Lord Brahma, he had some attraction for his own daughter in a very nasty kind of way, and he approached her in that way. But Haridas Thakur, Bhakti Dear Damodar Maharaj made this nice comment, that Haridas Thakur, although Maya Devi personified, came before him and did her little hubba hubba dance or whatever it was she was doing to attract him, Haridas Thakur was completely unmoved. But Lord Brahma was attracted by his own daughter. So what's the difference between the two? Bhakti Dear Damodar Maharaj commented very interesting. He said that Haridas Thakur wasn't a manager. It's very difficult to be a manager. And this is what Sanatana Goswami describes as the words of Lord Brahma to Narad Muni in Brihad Bhagavatam. He says, Tammayaya vasatatam jagatoham guru prabhu. I'm always in Maya because I'm a manager. Because I think I'm a big person. I think I'm the guru. I think I'm the creator of the universe. And because of that, everything's gone wrong. And therefore, he prayed for a low birth. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in Navarit Dham Mahatma, Mahaprabhu accepted that. And Mahaprabhu told him, Jaishamoy mama lila prakata hoibe, Jabanera grihe tumi janama labibe, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He said, Jai Shamoy Mama Lila Prakata Hoibi. When at that time, Jai Shamoy Mama Lila Prakata, when my pastimes manifest, then Javanera Grihe Tumi Janama Labibe. You'll take birth in the home of a Javana, a very low-class personalities. Because he's saying, Lord Brahma is saying that this is my problem. I have such a good birth. This was the same problem Kunti Devi complained about. She said to Krishna, I have these problems. And what are your problems? Well, my first problem is I have too much of a high birth. And my second problem is I'm too beautiful. Not very many women, they don't consider that to be a problem generally. My third problem is I have too much money. My fourth problem is I have too much of an education. So she considers these things to be problems because in that way, I forget about you. I don't remember you. So rather, you give me these problems over and over again. So in a similar way, Lord Brahma, he prayed that I don't want to be a big personality. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him that benediction that, no, at the time of my pastimes, Jeshamoy, Mama Lila Prakatohebe, you'll take birth in the house of a Yavana Malecha. So it's quite an interesting thing. It's interesting also if we contemplate it, say something very controversial, it seems very likely that Haridas Thakur, at least very possible, that he was having a non-vegetarian diet, at least early in his youth, or at least he was in a house that was having that going on. Sometimes devotees, they become confused. How can we accept Bhaktivinoda Thakur as a Nitya Siddha, as an eternal associate of the Lord, which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati described him as, and by all his symptoms he has. But at the same time, in his autobiography, Bhaktivinoda Thakur described in his youth that he was eating fish and chicken and things like that. How do we understand that? And the same way we can also understand that Garuda is a non-vegetarian Vaishnava. He's an eternal associate of the Lord, a great personality, but he's not following the four regulated principles. It's a big scandal. But he's a great devotee. So we can understand this from the birth and activities of Haridas Thakur always. So Mahaprabhu then told Haridas, told Lord Brahma, Apana ke hina bole hoibe gyana, Haridasa habe tumi shunya abhiman. Krishna told this to Lord Brahma. He says that Apana ke hina bole hoibe gyana. You're always going to think of yourself as dina hina, very low and very, very fallen. Haridasa habe tumi shunya abhiman. Your name will be Haridas and shunya abhiman. Don't worry, you won't have any abhiman. You won't have any pride. This is a real benediction. So many people, they approach the Lord and they ask for some benediction. And even sometimes as devotees, we don't think about it. We say, no, I'm not praying for that. Dhanam Dehi, Rupam Dehi. I'm not praying for some wealth or some beautiful wife or something. But when things go south in our lives, when we have problems, and sometimes we think, it's not fair. Why has this happened? Why did I lose my job? I'm chanting Hare Krishna. This thing shouldn't happen to me. This doesn't work. Sometimes very materialistic devotees, they think like that. Better I stop chanting Hare Krishna. It's not giving me the benediction that I want. Things are not going good in my life. And then Krishna told Lord Brahma, Tina Laksha Harinama Jivagre Nachibe Niryana Shamoye Tume Amake Dekibe Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Krishna gave him this benediction, this prediction. He says, Tina Laksha Harinama Jivagre Nachibe. That he doesn't say that you'll be chanting the holy name every day. He says, Tina Laksha, you'll be chanting 3 lakhs, and not just chanting, but Jivagre Nachibe. Nachibe, these holy names will be dancing on your tongue. When we chant, it's a big burden. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. As Prabhupada once he was chanting in Los Angeles in his room, and he finished chanting around. He put his bead bag down. He looked at the devotees and said, now I finished my 16 rounds and I can do any damn thing I want. And that way Prabhupada was giving some instruction, was teasing the devotees. That this is our mentality sometimes. Now I finished my 16 rounds. Finally, I've got that burden out of the way. But for Haridas Thakur, Jivagre Nachibe, the holy names were dancing on his tongue. He couldn't stop chanting. It was such an ecstatic thing for him. And because of that, Haridas Thakur, we describe him as being the Namacharya. And whereas many people, they were going for darshan of Lord Jagannath, Haridas Thakur wasn't. And it's an interesting thing because he's Lord Brahma. He installed the deities of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra here in Puri. But now when he comes to Puri, he can't go to have darshan of them. He could have complained. He could have gone to the temple and said, hey, get out of my way. Don't you know who I am? It's me. I'm Lord Brahma. I installed the deities here. He could have gone to the temple and said, you know, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and I, we're like this. And we're very, very tight. And I'm the Namacharya. Don't you know who I am? But he didn't do that. And by his behavior, he taught us what it means to take shelter of the holy name. Haridas Thakur didn't have the attitude of entitlement. And when we bring devotees to the Siddha Bakul, which I consider to be more significant than Haridas Thakur's Samadhi. In our Gaudiya Vaishnava line, we have 2 things. We have the Samadhi of a great personality, and we have their bhajan stali, or the place where they did their bhajan. And of the 2, generally, oftentimes devotees consider the Samadhi to be more important. But actually, the bhajan stali is more important. And as we point out to devotees when they come here to Jagannath Puri, that this place is psychically scarred. We have the word samskar, perhaps, which in English we have the phrase where that's some scar that you have. Samskar literally means a scar. And it made some impression. And here in Jagannath Puri and in Vrindavan and different tirthas, places where great devotees like Haridas Thakur did their Nam Bhajan, those places are psychically scarred. And if we go there today and we think about that personality, we pray to that personality, we glorify that personality, then we can connect something with them. And on appearance and disappearance days of such personalities. So Haridas Thakur was staying there. He wasn't going to have darshan of Lord Jagannath, although he was Lord Brahma who installed the deities. And by doing that, we consider that one of the lessons in that particular classroom in this Jagannath Puri University of Braj Prem is that if we want to do Nam Bhajan, we have to give up the attitude of entitlement. And Haridas Thakur wasn't trying to push his position that, don't you know who I am? You should let me inside of the temple. I often tell the story when we're there that we heard about Mother Jamuna, Srila Prabhupada's very dear disciple. When the last visit she made to Mayapur, she got together with a small group of devotees and they were doing some bhajan together a few days a week. And when they started the program, she told all of them that please don't be late and please come every day for the program. And it was a private program. And one day they'd started their program, and there was a knock on the door, and someone went and answered the door. And it was one of the devotees, initiated devotees who were living in Mayapur, just a few doors down. It was a friend of everybody. And this Mataji was standing there with a kind of smile. And she said, "Can I join the kirtan?" And Jamuna at that time, she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, there's not enough room." And the devotees were sitting in the room. They kind of looked around at each other, and there's enough room. And they were very uncomfortable. And finally, one of them said, "Well, there's enough space over here by the corner." And then Jamuna rather reluctantly said, "Okay, you can come in." So later, one of the devotees who were present there at that program went to Jamuna and asked her. She said, I don't understand." She said, "You are the most kind, loving, compassionate person I think I've ever met. Why did you tell her that there was no space when there was space?" And Jamuna at that time told her, she said, "We want to have some private program, which is intimate, where we're able to go deep in the holy name." And this, I'm sure she's a wonderful devotee. But I could see written all over her face the attitude of entitlement. That, "Oh, I'm an initiated devotee. I belong to Mayapur. I'm a neighbor. Therefore, I can join this kirtan." But she said, if we want to have some very deep program, we need to have some intimacy. And this is one of the lessons also that we learn about Nam Bhajan here in Jagannath Puri. Amongst the different classrooms in this place, the first classroom is the Jagannath Mandir. And that classroom represents several things, one of which is the importance of organized religion. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, according to Lochan Das Thakur and Chaitanya Mangal, was going to have darshan 3 times a day of Lord Jagannath, even though they had a lot of problems there. They had a bad attitude toward Haridas Thakur, toward Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And to this day, one of the few things I know how to say in Oriya language is Bideshi Prabation Shade, which is the same in Hindi and Bengali. A foreigner is not allowed inside. But that's the way things go with organized religion. There's always some problems with it. But here in Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us that it's important we should support organized religion, even though there may be some problems with it, but at the same time, so that we can survive, so that we can go deep in our Nam Bhajan, we need to have a private place. And so here in Jagannath Puri, not far from the Jagannath Mandir, there's another classroom, which is a Gambira, which is a place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us that to go deep in the holy name, we also need to have a private association. Therefore, we have these kind of programs. Srila Prabhupada started the daily Bhagavatam class in the temple. We go out every day on the street. We do Harinam, Nuhari Prabhu, my dear godbrothers, going out on a regular basis in Seattle and chanting. And perhaps sometimes he speaks to people. But what he speaks is not the same kind of thing that we speak in the temple. You don't go out in the street and say, God is a little boy and he's blue and he has a lot of girlfriends and he likes cows. They won't understand in Seattle. But amongst devotees who've gone deeper, we need to have Krishna book. We need to have something deeper. Guyam Akyati Prichati, Rupa Goswami, in Upadeshamrita, when he speaks about 6 different things which are very important for bhakti, he says, Guyam Akyati Prichati, we have to have some confidential exchanges. So when Haridas Thakur came to Jagannath Puri, he felt very, very fallen and low, and he wouldn't go inside the temple. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally gave him a place to stay, which today is known as Siddha Bakul. And from that place, it's said that Haridas Thakur could see the chakra on the temple. Today, that's not possible. There's so many buildings between Siddha Bakul and the Jagannath Mandir. But every day he would offer his obeisances like that, and he would do his japa there. And he didn't have to have darshan of Lord Jagannath because Lord Jagannath was coming to him personally every day in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu was staying in the Gambira, and every day he would go on the road, which today is known as Gora Batsahi, or that Sahi means a neighborhood, that neighborhood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Gorabhatta, the pathway that he would take to the ocean. And he would go there every day around 4 o'clock in the morning. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once commented to some of the devotees here in Puri. He said that I recommend that you every day go to the ocean to chant japa early in the morning. He said, because if you do that, you may see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, because every day he's going there to take bath. And after taking bath, then Mahaprabhu and his associates would go to the Jagannath Mandir to attend the Mangal Artik. And one such day, the pujari, after the Mangal Artik, gave Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a toothbrush of Lord Jagannath, which means an old dead stick. Generally, they use neem wood or sometimes some other wood. And they put a little karpur, a little camphor on the end of that. And that's what Lord Jagannath uses for his toothbrush. Srila Prabhupada did a similar thing. For some of you who may have grown up in the villages in India, it's still a common thing to use those twigs like that for a toothbrush. So they gave that old dead stick, Mahaprasad stick, to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after having darshan of Lord Jagannath, every day Mahaprabhu would go to visit his favorite devotee, Haridas Thakur. And that morning when he went there, he took that old dead stick and he stuck it in the ground. And a miracle happened. That old dead stick started growing. That particular stick that day was from a bakul tree. And it grew into this wonderful bakul tree, which is still there today. This is one of the last living, I say one of, not the only, but one of the last living associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still here on the planet. There's 2 other bakul trees here in Orissa that were also planted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is still living today. And if you come to Orissa, maybe we'll take you to that place for Parikrama sometime. So that tree is still there today. In the last big cyclone, half of it left its body, but the other half is still growing, still living. And Haridas Thakur sat under that tree, sat in the shade of that tree, and he chanted his 3 lakhs of the holy name every day. Sometimes when we take devotees there, I tell them that I wanted to introduce you to an old sadhu here who's over 100 years old. And the devotees are, wow, that's far out. And sometimes you can see on their face, they're thinking, is this bona fide? Is he an ISKCON devotee? I don't know. And I tell them, actually, the sadhu is over 500 years old. And it's this tree, right? One of the last living associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Haridas Thakur stayed under that tree in the wonderful association with Rupa Goswami, sometimes Sanatana Goswami, and regularly Advaitacharya and Nityananda Prabhu, when they were present in Jagannath Puri, would come to visit them. And Haridas Thakur was doing his Nam Bhajan there. And at that place, Rupa Goswami began writing his dramas, Lalita Madhav and Vidagda Madhav. And many, many different pastimes took place at that Siddhabakul. As I mentioned, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to come daily to visit Haridas Thakur. And Mahaprabhu was sending his servant Govinda with Jagannath Mahaprasad on a daily basis to Haridas, which also teaches us that if we take shelter of the holy name, you don't have to try to see God. God will see you. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said there's a purport to the word darshan. I personally don't think he would appreciate very much the online darshan that we give regularly. Sometimes we have this program, we say daily darshan. Darshan doesn't mean that we see. Darshan doesn't mean that we come and stand in front of Radhanila Madhav in our temple there in Samamish and look at the deities and say, yeah, they look okay. I approve. They have my approval. That's not darshan. Darshan means that we act in such a way that the Lord will see us. And so we learn this from Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur wasn't able to go to the temple for darshan, but he was chanting the holy name and the Lord was coming to him to give darshan. So there's a great purport to darshan. And if we chant the holy names with sincerity, Krishna will personally take care of us. Odalomi Maharaj was one of the disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He was the elder brother of Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, Prabhupada's godbrother and friend who gave sannyas to Srila Prabhupada. And after the disappearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Odalomi Maharaj became the Acharya here in Jagannath Puri at the Purushottam Mutt, where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was staying, where Srila Prabhupada wrote his last letter to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote a reply to him. Prabhupada was staying in Mumbai at that time as a grihasta, and he got this letter from Jagannath Puri, from which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote in that Bhajan Kutir. So Odalomi Maharaj was the temple president there at that time. He's the one who wrote this Sri Ketra Parikrama song, which we sang a couple of lines from. And anyway, Odalomi Maharaj, on one occasion, he saw that the devotees were becoming a little proud, the Sankirtan devotees. They had this abhiman, this attitude that we're maintaining the whole temple by our collection and that. So Odalomi Maharaj called all the devotees together one day, and he said, we're not going out for any more collection. We're just going to sit here in the temple, and we're going to chant Hare Krishna in front of the deities. And that's going to be our program. And the devotees said, Guru Maharaj, okay, whatever you tell us, but I think today we should go out and make a big collection, because we don't have very much food here in the temple right now. We'll make a big collection so we can get a big stock of rice and different things. And then in a few days or a week, then we can do this nice program. And Odalomi Maharaj said, no, starting today. And they very quickly ran out of food. And 3 days the devotees went. There was no prasadam. There was nothing they had to eat. And then on the third or fourth day, all of a sudden they were just chanting Hare Krishna all day. On the third or fourth day, someone showed up at the temple with a big bag of rice and some vegetables and things and said, I just want to donate these to the deities. And by Krishna's arrangement, every day after that, people started coming and giving things. And Odalomi Maharaj, and he told the devotees, he said, see, if you have faith in the holy name, you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna will send everything. So the example is Haridas Thakur. He wasn't going out. He wasn't working a job. He wasn't working for Microsoft. He didn't have to go to the office or anything. He was just chanting Hare Krishna. That was his job. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally sending prasadam to him. And it wasn't like Haridas complained, hey, what's going on? I'm hungry. Why don't you guys give me some food or something? There was no complaint. He didn't have the attitude of entitlement. Govinda, Mahaprabhu's personal servant, was bringing him prasad every day. And one day, when Govinda came, he saw that Haridas was laying on his back, and he was chanting his japa very slowly. And Govinda was a little surprised to see that. And he said, hey, please get up, take Mahaprasad. And Haridas Thakur said, today I'm going to fast. And Govinda said, how is that? Why? And Haridas Thakur said, I haven't finished chanting my rounds. He said, but at the same time, you brought some Mahaprasad. How can I neglect that? It's an offense if someone brings us Mahaprasad if we don't take it. Once I was here in Puri, and I have a problem. I'm a Bideshi. And when I go for a rickshaw ride, which it should be like 10 rupees or something, they want to charge me 100 rupees. That's the way it works. So once I'd gone for a rickshaw ride, which should have been 10 rupees, and the guy wanted to charge me 30 rupees or something. I'm a very stubborn person. And I said, no, it should be, I was going to give him 15 rupees or something. And I was quarreling with him. We're standing right in front of the Jagannath Mandir. And all of a sudden, one of my friends just happened along, and he came up to me and said, hey, Madhavananda, would you like some Jagannath Mahaprasad? And I said, well, yeah. And he handed me some Jagannath Mahaprasad. And I turned then to that rickshawala who I was having this argument with. And I offered him some Mahaprasad. And he hesitated for a moment. Sometimes in Jagannath Puri, people won't take Mahaprasad from your hand. Because it's considered that it's such a sacred exchange that if you give someone Mahaprasad, you're never supposed to argue with that person again. If any of the ladies visit Jagannath Puri with your husband, it's a good thing you can give him some Mahaprasad. And so now you can't argue with me after this. So I offered him some Mahaprasad. At the same time, you're not supposed to refuse it. And he stood there for a moment, just looking at me. And then he offered obeisances on the ground, and he took the Mahaprasad, and he took a fair rate for the rickshaw also. It was a good thing. So Haridas Thakur, he said, I have this problem. You're offering me Mahaprasad. I can't neglect it. So then he offered obeisances to the Mahaprasad. He took a little tiny bit of it, and he ate it, because I have to respect the Mahaprasad. I have to at least take some tulsi leaf or something. So then Govinda went back to Mahaprabhu, and he made some report that Haridas doesn't look very good. And Mahaprabhu then came to see him, and he asked him, he said, are you well? Is everything okay? And Haridas Thakur offered obeisances to him, and he said, my body's okay. He said, my body's okay. But my mind and intelligence, they're not doing very well. He said, asusta buddhiman. My mind and intelligence are unhappy because I'm not able to chant my rounds. This is my disease. And Prabhupada writes in his purport to that verse in Anchalila chapter 11. He says, if one cannot complete the fixed number of rounds he's assigned, he should be considered to be in a diseased condition of spiritual life. Srila Haridas Thakur is called Namacharya. Of course, we cannot imitate Haridas Thakur, but everyone must chant a prescribed number of rounds. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we fix 16 rounds as a minimum so that Westerners will not feel burdened. These 16 rounds must be chanted, and chanted loudly, so that one can hear himself and others. Also, Srila Prabhupada says this is a most important instruction from the Guru, that you chant your 16 rounds. My Guru Maharaj, sometimes he would comment that the most important sadhana every day that you do, you should have Bhagavatam class. Every day you should have Bhagavatam. So someone once asked him, they said, well, what about japa? And Guru Maharaj said, no, that's in another category. He said, better you die than don't chant your 16 rounds. The most important sadhana is you hear Bhagavatam class every day. But your japa, that's not an optional thing. Better that you die than to not chant your your prescribed number of rounds. So at that time, Mahaprabhu told Haridas Thakur, Prabhu kahe brida hai la samkya apakoro siddhadeha tumi sadane agraha kenita. He said that you become brida, you're an old man now, so it's not necessary. Samkya apakoro, you can chant less rounds. He said that Siddha Dehatum, you've already gotten a spiritual body. So you don't have to do any sadhana. Prabhupada comments in his purport there. He says, unless someone has come to the platform, a spontaneous love of God, he must follow the regulated principles. We can't imitate Haridas Thakur. He says, Thakur Haridas was a living example of how to follow the regulated principles. Similarly, Raghunath Das Goswami was also such a living example. In the Sad Goswami Ashtaka, it is stated, Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi Kalavasani Krito. The Goswamis, especially Raghunath Das Goswami, strictly followed all the regulated principles. The first regulated principle is that one must chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra loudly enough so that he can hear himself, and one must vow to chant a fixed number of rounds. Not only was Raghunath Das Goswami chanting a fixed number of rounds, but he'd also taken a vow to bow down many times and offer obeisances to the Lord. So then Mahaprabhu told Haridas, Lokanishtarite tomara avatar, namera mahima loke korila prachar. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Sometimes devotees, they ask, someone asked me this question some time back, that where does the phrase Namacharya come from? And I did a little research on it, and I couldn't find that phrase anywhere in Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavad or any of the biographies of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But I think that perhaps this phrase comes from this particular verse, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Haridas Thakur that Loka Nishtarite e Tomara Avatar, that you came here to deliver the people in general here. Tomar avatar, you've incarnated yourself here for the purpose namira mahima loki korya prachar, to preach, to we use a translation, we say preach for this word prachar. Prachar means to expand. It doesn't just mean to preach as we have in a Christian sense in the West, but it means to expand something. It means to nourish. And just like Vardhana, the word in Sanskrit Vardhana, we say Govardhana, that Krishna nourishes the cows, that Govardhan, he nourishes the cows, therefore he's Govardhana. He says that Namira Mahima Loke Kori Prachar, that Haridas Thakur, you came here to preach to people. In general, this is your purpose in coming. And Prabhupada in his purport, he says, Haridas Thakur is known as Namacharya, because it is he who preached the glories of chanting Harinam, the holy name of God. By using the words Tomar Avatar, your incarnation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that Haridas Thakur is the incarnation of Lord Brahma. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that advanced devotees help the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his mission, and that such devotees or personal associates incarnate by the will of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord incarnates by his own will, and by his will, competent devotees also incarnate to help him in his mission. Haridas Thakur is thus the incarnation of Lord Brahma, and other devotees are likewise incarnations who help in the prosecution of the Lord's mission. It's an interesting thing. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written this wonderful book, Nam Chintamani, Harinam Chintamani, which he describes as a conversation at Siddhabakul between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur. And in the beginning, the first chapter of that book, he says that Mahaprabhu spoke through the mouths of different devotees. Through the mouth of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Mahaprabhu listened and he heard about Mukti Tattva. Through the mouth of Roy Ramananda, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the bank of the Godavari, he listened to Sadhya Sadhana Tattva. At Siddhabakul, from the mouth of Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about Rasa Tattva. And from the mouth of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard Nam Tattva. And this is a very significant point for us to contemplate on. It's important in our movement. Our movement is a movement of empowerment. It's not like an old boys club, but we want to, as I remember, I saw a sticker once in America that said, old age and treachery will always overcome youth and skill. That's a saying which may be popular with some old people like myself. We shouldn't be like that. Rather, we should always be looking for qualified people and encourage them to give class, encourage them to lead kirtan, encourage them to come forward, encourage them to be empowered. Once we had a group of young children come from Mayapur, a group of young girls from one of the schools, and we were taking them on parikrama, and we took them to to Tota Gopinath temple. And after we spoke there and did some bhajan with the girls, we were walking together. And at that time, one of the little girls, she turned to me, they were like about 11 or 12 years old. And she told me, she says, Prabhuji, when I grow up, I want to become just like you. And I stopped. And I looked at her and I said, no. And all the little girls were a little taken aback that I was being so harsh. And I said, no, you shouldn't be like me. You should be better than me. Because you come from such a nice family. You're growing up in Mayapur. I come from a very bad family. You should be better than me. And when I told that to that little girl, I'll never forget the look on her face. And her back became straight. And this is our mission, to empower others. And this is one of the lessons that we learned from Siddhabakul. With Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he brought his older associates, Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, and others, and he introduced a new man to them, a young boy whose name was Rupa. And there at Siddhabakul, Mahaprabhu introduced them and told them, you please empower him. You please give him your mercy. So this is our movement. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Bhagavan himself. He's a source, he's Vedanta, he knows all the Vedas, he's a source of the Vedas, but still he's hearing from his devotees to teach us how we should behave with the devotees. So this is another important lesson in this classroom at Siddha Bakul, that we should learn from the devotees. We should not have an attitude that I know so many things, I'm a very senior devotee. We shouldn't have an attitude of entitlement. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told this to Haridas Thakur, he said that don't worry, you're perfect, you're Siddha, you don't have to worry about chanting a certain number of rounds. Haridas Thakur replied, Hina jati janma mor ninja kalivai, Hina karme rata muni adama pamar. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He says, Hina jati janmamur. I was born in a very, very low-class family. Ninja Kalevar. I'm very, very abominable. Hina karme. I'm always doing very low-class work. Mui adama pamara. I'm a low-class fallen person. I find this very beautiful, this statement of Haridas Thakur. He didn't say, don't you know who I am? I'm Lord Brahma. I'm Namacharya. He didn't forget where he came from. Sometimes I see, especially amongst the Western devotees, that we forget about our parents. Maybe it's not so bad today, but when I joined in 1982, that was a common thing, that they didn't want to speak about their parents because, in my case, my mother was not a vegetarian, but she's my mother. How can I forget my mother and my father? And if I forget them, then it means I'm not properly situated. I'm not balanced because I'm trying to pretend that I'm something that I'm not. We should always remember our parents. We should always remember where we came from. And don't consider ourselves to be great personalities. Haridas Thakur, he considered himself to be a Yavana Malecha. He went on to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, Adrishya Asprishya More Angikara Kaila Roravahaite Kare More Vaikuncharaila Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He says, I'm so bad, Adrishya, better you don't see me. Asprishya, better you don't touch me. If you touch me, you'll become contaminated. But still, Angikara Koila, you've accepted me. And Roravahaite Kari, you've taken away this hellish condition from me. And Vaikuntha Chadaila, you've raised me to the Vaikuntha platform. He said, my dear Lord, let me tell you something. You're Swatantra. You're independent. You can do whatever you like. I can't try to tell you what to do. You've made me dance in so many different ways. I was offered this Shradpatra by Advaita Acharya. I ate from it, even though I was born in a family of meat eaters. But my dear Lord, I have one desire. I've not asked you for anything. Haridas Thakur, the only prayer that he offered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he prayed to Mahaprabhu when the Yavanas and the Muslims were beating him, trying to beat him to death. He prayed that you please forgive them. That was his prayer. He said, I do have one other vansha, one other desire. Eka vansha hoy mora bahudina hoite. Lila somebody betumi loya mora chite. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He said, Eka vansha, I have this one desire. That mora bahudina hoite. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I'm convinced that very soon, Lila Samvaribe Tumi Loya Mora Chitte. I'm thinking that very soon you're going to finish your pastimes. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to be here when you leave this world. He says, so I have this desire, Hridaya Dharima, Tomara Kamala Charana. I want to catch a hold of your lotus feet and put them on my heart. Noyane Dekimu Tomara Chanda Vadana. I want to look at your lotus, your moon-like face, and leave my body chanting your name. This is my desire. Now, it's an interesting thing. Sometimes there's one personality I know of who tells devotees that chanting Hare Krishna, that's okay. But I have a better program. Instead of chanting Hare Krishna mantra on your beads, you chant the names of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Nityananda because they're more merciful. But that wasn't the program of Haridas Thakur. That wasn't the program of Nityananda Prabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Bhagavad, he says, Jadiyama pratisneha taki sabakar tabi Krishna vyati rikta nagai bayar. I memorized this verse because the first time I ever heard this verse was in 1993 in Seattle, Washington, in the temple there when my Guru Maharaj had come. It was one of the first classes that I heard from him. And he spoke this verse. My name at that time was Nityananda Das. I was initiated previously, and my Guru went away. And Guru Maharaj, he quoted this verse and he turned to me and he says, Jadiyama prati snehataki sabakar. He said, if you love me, you love my instructions. This is a verse spoken by Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu said, if you love me, you love my instructions, don't chant my name. Chant Krishna's name. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the mood of Radharani. And Radharani doesn't become happy when the Sakhis come and they start chanting Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. She says, stop making that noise. She wants them to hear them chant Krishna, Krishna. So similarly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't come for devotees to chant his name. We do chant his name sometimes. We do chant Prabhupada's name, and we become very, very blissful by doing that. But our primary sadhana that we perform on our beads, which is our connection with our Gurudev, is the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Haridas Thakur was making a bit of an amazing request. He told Mahaprabhu that when I leave my body, Tomara Krishna Chaitanya Nam, he said, Jivaya Ucharimu Tomara Krishna Chaitanya Nam. When I leave my body, I want to be chanting your name. This is my desire. His primary sadhana was chanting a Hare Krishna mantra. But when he left his body, he said, I want to remember you. I want to be chanting your name. Similarly, sometimes devotees, there's been some Prabhupada disciples who left their body looking at pictures of Srila Prabhupada or chanting Prabhupada's name because that's their connection. And Haridas Thakur had a similar desire, but his primary sadhana was chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So Mahaprabhu at that time, when he heard these words of Haridas, he said, my dear Haridas, Krishna is so kind that he'll have to do whatever you want. He said at that time, Kintu. Kintu means but. Kintu amara jai kicha sukha sabato lana. Tomara yogyana he ajabe amara charya. He says, Kintu amara jai kicha sukha sabato lana. But my only happiness is because of your association. So it's not appropriate for you to go away and leave me alone. And when Haridas Thakur heard that, he grabbed a hold of Mahaprabhu's feet. And he said, don't do this illusion. I'm so fallen. And even though I'm so fallen, still you should give me this mercy. He said, my dear Lord, there's so many great personalities in Tomara Lila in your pastimes. So many bhaktas who are fit to sit on my head. Who am I? And then Haridas Thakur told Mahaprabhu, Amahina jani eka kita mori gela, eka pipilika moila, pidiveka hanahaila. Said, my dear Lord, if one kita means an insect, kita means a little worm. If that insect leaves, he says, eka pipilika. In Oriya, Papilika means an ant. If one ant dies, you don't read about it in the front page of Seattle Times, right? Ant died in Lake Sammamish, right? Mosquito died. One mosquito died. There's no front page news that a mosquito died and then an ant died. Haridas Thakur says, that's like me. What's the loss to this world if one mosquito dies, if one ant leaves his body? Huh? My dear Lord, he said, you please fulfill my desire. Huh? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't say anything. And later, a few days later, he came back to Haridas and he said, Prabhu Kahi. He said, Haridas Kaha Samachar. He said, hey, Haridas, what's the news? Ki kabur. What's the cover? What's the news? And Haridas Thakur, he replied, Prabhu, Jai Kripa Tomar. Whatever mercy you can give to me. And so at that time, Mahaprabhu started doing kirtan there at Siddhabakul. And Vikeshwar Pandit, who was worshiping the deities of Radhakant, who are still there today in the Gambhira, he began to dance there in that place. And all the devotees, Srup Damodar Goswami, and all the different devotees, they were all there, and they all surrounded Haridas Thakur. And they all started doing kirtan. Ramananda Roy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there, all the different devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Mahaprabhu began to speak about the glories of Haridas Thakur. And it said that Hai Ila Panchamukha, it's just like he was speaking as if he had 5 mouths. And the more that Mahaprabhu spoke of glorifying Haridas Thakur, the more happiness he got. And when all the devotees there heard about the amazing qualities of Haridas Thakur, they became astonished. And all the devotees offered their obeisances to the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. These are devotees like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was a minister of Maharaj Prataparudya, who came from a very high-class Brahmin family. Devotees like Ramananda Roy, devotees like Srup Damodar Goswami, very elevated, exalted devotees, and they're all offering their obeisances to Haridas Thakur. Haridasa nija drete prabhure basaila, nija neta dui bringa mukha padmandila. Haridas Thakur made Mahaprabhu sit down in front of him. And then Haridas Thakur, nija neta dui bringa, his 2 eyes became just like bumblebees. And he fixed his eyes on the lotus face of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he took the feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and put them on his heart. Svahridoya ani darila Prabhu charana, sarva bhakta padarenu mastaka bhushana. And he took the dust from the feet of all the devotees present, and he put their dust on his head, the dust from the feet of Srup Damodar and Roy Ramananda, and Vikeshwar Pandit, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and all these great personalities. And then Haridas Thakur, with the feet of Mahaprabhu on his chest, looking at Mahaprabhu's face, after smearing the dust from all the feet of all the devotees on his head, he started chanting, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shabda Bolina Bhadavar, Prabhu Mukha Madhura Piye Netre Jaladhar. Over and over again, he started chanting, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And looking at the face of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur left his body. And at that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to cry. And he picked up the body of Haridas Thakur and he began to dance and do kirtan. And he carried the body of Haridas Thakur to the ocean and he bathed him in the ocean. And Mahaprabhu made a proclamation that henceforth, whoever takes bath at this place, this is a wonderful tirtha. The ocean here in Jagannath Puri, according to Skanda Purana, is known as Samudraraj or Tirtharaj. It's the king of all different tirthas because all the sacred rivers enter into it. But it's become even more sacred because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees are taking bath. And it's become even more sacred because he bathed the body of Haridas Thakur there. And it's said that if you take bath there in that place, you'll eventually get love of God. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with his own hands, carrying the body of Haridas Thakur, he began to dig a hole in the sand. And all the devotees began to help him. And then Mahaprabhu buried the body of Haridas Thakur. For those of you who've been to Jagannath Puri, maybe you've been to Swargadwar. Swargadwar is the Puri Smasana, or the place where they burn the bodies, the dead bodies. According to Sundarananda Vidyavinod in his book, Sri Ketra's Bengali book, he was a disciple of Shiva Bhaktisiddhanta who did great research about Jagannath Puri. According to him, that Haridas Thakur's samadhi was part of that smasana, that burning ground. Today, it's probably 1 kilometer away from the original, from the current burning grounds. But at that time, he said it was a very large area. Anyway, Mahaprabhu then, he personally went to Ananda Bazaar in the Jagannath Mandir, the place where they sell Jagannath Prasad. And Mahaprabhu held out his cloth and he begged alms from all the different shopkeepers, and all of them became very ecstatic, and they all started giving so much to Mahaprabhu. And Sup Damodar Goswami came and said, no, this is not good. If you come and beg, they're going to give everything they have. We'll do the begging. And so they collected Mahaprasad. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set all the devotees down, and he personally went and served prasadam to all the devotees. Sometimes in our journeys, our research work, we have a magazine we make called Sri Krishna Katamrita. This is our most recent issue on Govardhan Hill. Sometimes for our research, we're traveling in India and we stay sometimes in Govardhan and the Gaudiya Mutt temples, other places to take prasadam and have a place to stay. It's a temple. And I've marked that it's a common thing in many of those temples of the sannyasis, they serve out prasadam. Because that's our system, that prasadam, the word prasad in Sanskrit is a synonym for the word kripa. Prasad means mercy. But who can give kripa? A superior person gives kripa. You don't give your ashirbad, your blessing to your parents. You don't say, yeah, Dad, you have my blessing. You gave me some ice cream today, so you have my full blessings. It's not that the child gives a blessing to the elder. Rather, the child goes and touches the feet of the parents and gets some blessing. So in their temples, it's a little different system in our temples. Prabhupada oversaw that. But in their temples, it's a system the sannyasis serve out the prasadam. Right? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was doing like that. He personally served out prasadam to the devotees here. So one of the lessons we get from this pastime today, which we were mentioning, is that we meditate on the purport of this pastime, that this place, Jagannath Puri, this is known as Vipralambha, the place of separation. And if this is a place of separation, then Haridas Thakur's Samadhi and Siddha Bakul, they're Dvigunita Vipralambha. They're twice as much separation. Excuse me. Because this is a place where the devotees feel separation from Haridas Thakur. This is a place where we can meditate on separation from Guru. Sometimes devotees may think that they may pray to Krishna, Krishna, I just want to compliment you. You did a good job. You created the universe. It's really nice. Everything works really good. Sun rises on time every day. Sun sets on time every day. Everything's created very, very nicely. But if you don't mind me saying so, Krishna, you made one mistake. And perhaps Krishna then says, well, what is that mistake? The one mistake is that by the nature of things, you created it, that my Gurudev will probably leave this world before I do. And after the disappearance of Guru, how can I go on? My Guru Maharaj said that Acharya, Gurudev, he's a personality who gives light to the world. And after the disappearance of Sri Guru, it's a very dark period. It's a period, a time of confusion. We see that in the case of Srila Prabhupada. It was very easy when Srila Prabhupada was present. Devotees could go to him with any complaints or questions or anything, and Prabhupada would resolve everything. But in the absence of such a personality, it's very difficult. And in our society today, there's so many different opinions, there's so many different groups, and that's natural. That's just the way things go when we don't have a common person to surround us. So we might think that, Krishna, you made some mistake by doing this. But no, we didn't. My Guru Maharaj used to stress that you should learn to cry for Krishna. But this crying, Prabhupada says in Nectar Devotion, we should learn the simple art of crying for Krishna. It's such a very important thing. But once one devotee, he came to our Guru Maharaj and said, Guru Maharaj, you're telling us that we should cry for Krishna, but that's just a theoretical thing for me. I don't know who Krishna is. How can I cry for Krishna? And then my Guru Maharaj replied, he said, after I leave this world, then you'll be able to cry. So there is some function, some purpose in the disappearance of Guru. Generally, the Guru is usually older than the disciple. And as such, generally, he leaves this world before the disciple. And we might think that this is a terrible thing and it's a great crisis. And what are we going to do now? Because those devotees who are anartha yukta vasta, who have anarthas in their heart, their darshan of Gurudev is bhogya darshan. They see that Gurudev is meant for my desire. Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls them sneha silita, persons who are just along for the ride of affection and tension. And after the disappearance of Guru, they have a great crisis. And they think, who's going to give me affection now? Gurudev's gone. And then they start looking for someone else to fill that hole, to give them attention, because they think that's the purpose of Gurudev, to give attention to me. They're sneha silita. They're always looking for that sneha, that affection, because they're anartha yukta vasta. We should rather have darshan of Gurudev. We should have sevak darshan, that Gurudev is meant to be served. He's the servant of Krishna, and he's meant to be served. We should have that sevya darshan. And if we have that kind of darshan, then we'll never be separated from Gurudev. Prabhupada wrote a letter in 1968 to some of the disciples on the East Coast when Prabhupada had gone to San Francisco and they were feeling separation. Prabhupada told them, please be happy in separation. I'm separated from my Guru Maharaj since 1936, but I'm always with him so long as I work according to his direction. So we should all work together for satisfying Lord Krishna. And in that way, the feelings of separation will transform into transcendental bliss. And this is our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, that this prema dhara, or this river of love, my Guru Maharaj described in this book, Embankment of Separation. He describes that this prema dhara, this river of love, has two embankments. Just as a river has to have two embankments, otherwise it'll flood. So the river of prema, of love, has sambhog tata and vipulamba tata, or the embankment of union and the embankment of separation. And this separation is a necessary thing. It helps us to make more advancement. Otherwise, it's theoretical. We're chanting, we're told that we should cry for Krishna, but it's all theoretical. But when Gurudev leaves this world, then it's a great test for us. When my Guru Maharaj left this world in 1996, myself and a few of my godbrothers, we went to visit one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, who was very close with Prabhupada. His name was Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. He passed away some years ago, a very wonderful, gentle Vaishnava. And we told him, we said, Maharaj, our Guru Maharaj just left his body. He left this world. What should we do? And he gave us some very, very wonderful advice. He said, don't think that he's gone. Rather, you should think that he's just in the bushes hiding to watch and see what you're going to do. But don't ever think that he's gone. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote a poem, an English poem in praise of Haridas Thakur. And he said in the first stanza, he reasons ill that Vaishnavas die when they're living still and sound. So Haridas Thakur is still present. Gurudev is still present. The Vaishnavas that we've come close to by hearing and chanting, who may have left their bodies, they're still present in the form of sound. We can still associate with those personalities by following their instructions. We can associate directly with Haridas Thakur by remembering his pastimes, especially on his disappearance day to day, and we can get his mercy. So I want to go ahead and stop there. I'm sorry I went a little longer than we intended. And I'd like to humbly request the devotees, please, if you have any reflections or comments or questions, this is a time for that.
Thank you, Madhavananda Prabhu. So,
Hare Krishna,
devotees, Hare Krishna. So, if you have any if you have any questions, can you please kindly raise the hand in the Zoom, and we will call you in the sequence in which you are raising the hand.
Or if you have any reflections are also very nice. I like reflections.
Okay.
Reflections means that there's something you heard that you really liked. I see on Sriji Vallabha, I see one young man there, and also on Surya, I see a young man there. It's really nice. I don't see how you guys do it. Sriji Vallabha, is that you, Mataji? This is your son here?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, here's my
What is
son.
his name? What's his name?
Murali.
Murari, how
Murli.
old are you? Murli, I'm sorry.
9 years old.
You're 9 years old?
Yes.
Yes. Can I ask you a personal question, Murli?
Yes.
Isn't class boring?
No.
You don't find it boring?
No.
Really? Sometimes I find it boring. That's very good. You must be a very great devotee. Thank you very much, Murli. That's really good. And I also see some other Soya on some other personality here. What is your name?
Shorya.
Sorarya, that's your name?
Shorya.
Sorry, okay. Sorry. How old are you?
7.
7 years old. My gosh. Hmm? And you don't find class to be boring? You like it, really? Wow. You're another great personality. Hmm? And you and Murli are friends?
Yes.
Very good. Well, you're two great personalities. If I come to Seattle someday, maybe you'll give me some blessing. You're a great personality. I'm born in a very, very bad family. I come from a good family. My mother and father are very good, but I come from a low background. So anybody has any reflections or comments they'd like to share? Something that you heard that you liked, you want to repeat? Because if we find something that we like, then we get to keep it if we repeat it.
Yes, Prabhu. Can I go?
Hare Krishna. Yes, please.
So, Prabhu, I really like the point about how the point that you made that in order to develop a deep connection with the holy name, and the thing to let go is the feeling of entitlement. So that was something. I mean, that was quite profound. Something that I would like to contemplate on, try to implement in life.
That's a very, very important principle.
And the second important lesson that you talked about is about how our moment is based on empowering others, and never to have an attitude of being a senior devotee and always being eager to learn, and especially in intimate group of devotees, how to share and learn from each other. So that was also very nice.
Yeah, you have to empower Murli. Who knows what's going to happen with him? Hey, Murli, can I ask you a question?
Yes, probably.
Do your clothes get washed every day?
Yes.
Who does it?
My mom.
Your mother does. Very good. You know, I ask that question sometimes to some young boys, and they say, I don't know. It just kind of happens. And that's not a good attitude, is it? Your mother's doing that. Maybe some days you wash the clothes?
Yes.
You do?
Not
Really?
but sometimes.
You're a very good boy. That's really good. So we shouldn't have the attitude that Krishna gave me my mother just to serve me, and that her whole purpose in life is just to wash my clothes and to cook for me and take care of me. That's the attitude of entitlement. And that's not good. That's not good for our bhajan. Krishna won't appreciate that. Your mother's also a person. And she also likes to chant and do things. And you sometimes you can maybe even cook for her, or you can clean around the house, you can do different things, and he can also help because she's a devotee, and it's very nice if you serve a devotee. Is that okay, Marley? Do you like that idea?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for listening so nicely.
Arjun Saka Prabhu, you have some reflection to share, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, dear Prabhuji. Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Arjun Saka.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That was a very insightful class. You took us on a journey where you explored so many classrooms in Vipralamba Kshetra. And just a few reflections came to my mind. First, you spoke about the Sri Krishna Kathamrit magazine. So I personally want to express my heartfelt gratitude to you and my most wonderful God brother, His Grace Hari Parshad Prabhu. Thank you so much for all the Krishna Kathamrit magazines that you all have come up, whether it's the mystery of Mahaprabhu Sannyas or that of Giriraj. And only a few days back, I was reading the article of the Mukta Charitra that was there in Giriraj. And I really loved how both of you all explored the point that as to how Raghunath Das Goswami is from Radhika's camp, but then how is it that he accepts the fact that Radharani lost to Krishna in that Mukta Charitra, and how you all went to the Pujari and then reconciled and figured out as to how Radharani always wins in the transcendental battle with Sri Krishna. So I really want to express my gratitude for the Krishna Kathamrit magazine, not just me, but also my brother Amarendra Prabhu. We both really love the magazines that both of you all come up with. So genuine, heartfelt gratitude, Prabhuji. And the last point I wanted to share, you very beautifully said that the Supreme Lord creates everything, but there's one transcendental mistake that he has made in the form that Shri Guru departs this world earlier. And I just remembered a point in connection to that, my holy God brother, His Holiness Gaur Krishnadas Goswami Maharaj, even he expressed the same desire to Srila Radha Govinda Maharaj, my Guru Maharaj, in the year 2015, that Srila Guru Maharaj would leave this world earlier before him. And it was a burning desire in the heart of Srila Gaur Krishna Maharaj to leave the world before Srila Guru Maharaj. And of course, Srila Guru Maharaj did not say anything. But interestingly, 6 months after that conversation, in the land of Vrindavan during Brahma Muhurta, His Holiness Gaur Krishna Maharaj left this world. So I was just trying to remember that point as to how you said that Krishna orchestrates everything right, but he takes Sri Guru earlier. And that was a burning desire, not a desire, I would say, but that was something that was there in the heart of Gaur Krishna Maharaj, which he did not want to see his spiritual master leave before him. So once again, thank you so much, Prabhuji. That was a very insightful class. And I genuinely thank you for all the classes and all the magazines, whether it's the Kathamrit Bindu or it's the soft copy, the book version that you have come up. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And I really hope that you personally come one day to Seattle and give your very wonderful association to all of us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Arjun Saka Prabhu. You reminded me of some devotees who are very dear to me. Gaur Krishna Maharaj and your Guru Maharaj and Hari Parshad Prabhu, Amarendra Prabhu. Now I understand why you're so effulgent. I was trying to understand who is this personality. Thank you very much for your kind words. I'm just trying to do something to keep out of trouble. And our Guru Maharaj very kindly gave us that instruction. This is the kindness of Guru. They speak Hari Katha and they tell us we should speak. And our Guru Maharaj said that the function of Guru, he speaks Shabda Brahma. And the disciple may be what Jiva Goswami and Bhakti Sandarbha calls it, Sarad Vakta, or a speaker who has material desires. And we don't want to hear from him. We want to hear from a Nirad Vakta, a person who doesn't have material desires. But still, there's some benefit in the kirtan of the disciple. And my Guru Maharaj, he described that. He said that the kirtan of the disciple is another name for shravan, for hearing. By repeating what we've heard from our Guru, then we're getting benefit ourselves. So that's his mercy that we're trying to repeat something, but I have to say it doesn't belong to me. Anyway, thank you very much, Arjun Sakha Prabhu. I hope if you come to Jagannath Puri sometime, please come and visit us. We have a nice ashram. We have a guest room here. Maybe you can stay sometime if you like and take the devotees around. And Murli, that goes for you also. But you have to be nice to your mother, okay?
So Madhavananda Prabhu, a couple of devotees in this call, including me, we were part of the 2008 Jagannath Puri Yatra by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And I was a little fortunate, and Murli was also fortunate to have your association among the thousands of devotees. So
I remember when Radhanath Maharaj used to come to Puri with small intimate groups when it was only like 2,000 devotees. It was very small and intimate. Now it's like 6,000 or 7,000 devotees.
Yes.
But it's still very sweet with Maharaj's Sangha.
Yes, Prabhu. Amritanand Prabhu, Madhavachandra Prabhu, any reflections? I see a couple of hands also up, but any reflections before we go for the questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so much for such wonderful sharing this. And a couple of points I was just thinking, like when you mentioned Namacharya, Haridas Thakur, he is Namacharya, but how he valued the dust from the devotees' lotus feet when he was leaving. So that was very instructive, how important for us the devotees are. So that was very...
Yeah. It's very heart touching, isn't it? That Lord Brahma, he's come, and now he's Namacharya. He's a big personality. But how is he a big personality? He's not just big because he has a title, but he's a big personality because he's chanting Sudanam. And he's so humble. He has that mood of Tanada peace, and he takes the dust of all the devotees on his head. Such an amazing departure. We can't imagine.
The other point I was just thinking, like when Maharaj mentioned to the devotee, he said, like, I don't know Krishna, how I am going to cry for Krishna? And that Maharaj mentioned that after I leave, you can cry for me. That was another instructive point for us. As you mentioned, in Krishna's creation, everything has a purpose. And then spiritual master leaves before the disciple, and there is an instruction for all of us, because we don't have personal association of Krishna. And then we can learn. When we learn to cry for, the Guru, and the spiritual master leaves, then we can learn how to cry for Krishna. Everything is an instruction for us. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Amritanand Prabhu, Brajakar Prabhu, any reflections, Prabhu, before we move on to the questions? There are a couple of hands up. Okay. If not, then we'll start. I think Sundara Prabhu.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Prabhu. Amrita. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my blessings as always. Thank you for this wonderful session. Hare Krishna. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, you're kind of going in and out. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm on a call, but I just checked a few minutes. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. I had
now we can't hear you.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhuji.
Not able to hear you.
Not able to hear me?
Prabhu, we can hear, Prabhu.
Yeah. Oh, now I can hear. Maybe it's my connection.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. This is Amritananda Das for a wonderful class, Prabhuji. So nice. I have been actually hearing your classes last many years, and my first interaction, my Guru Maharaj, he asked me to hear the culture of respect. That's there like 5 or 6 sessions. So my Guru Maharaj is Romapad Swami Maharaj. He asked me to hear those classes. And one point which struck my heart at that time, and then just still I carry with that that instruction which you gave in that particular class is how to respect anybody, how Vaishnava respects anybody, seeing Paramatma in the heart. That's the basis of respect. So in that culture of respect class, I really learned this particular point that, we should respect each and everyone, all the living entities around us, even the ant. So we can see that Paramatma is sitting in their heart, and that's the basis of respect. So thank you for that wonderful instruction. And in today's session, the thing which I also heard your discussion between Chaitanya Charan Prabhu and yourself, and in the what is that session going?
Long podcast.
Podcast. Yes, Mark's podcast. So there also you discussed that we should never forget from where we came. And this point you brought up here, that what was our background and how did we have an opportunity to come in contact with. We should never forget our position. So that will always keep us grounded. So thank you for all this nice nectar words. And I have to listen to the class again, certainly, to speak about more reflections. But thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. My humble prayer, I'm not a qualified person. We're doing this and everybody says so many sweet things, but I'm hoping that the Vaishnavas will bless us. We can get the blessings of the Vaishnavas and everything will be good.
So I have one more question for you is regarding your Gora Research Center, and if devotees would like to contribute, how can we do that?
Well, there's a devotee who lives in Seattle who's in charge of the fundraising for that. That's Ashwin Prabhu. You could talk with him. It's a little crazy, actually, to make a complaint about something mundane. We went to open a bank account about 2 months ago, maybe more than that, here in Puri, and the bank still hasn't opened it yet, although all the paperwork is there and all the things like that. We're opening a branch account of the BRC, the Bhaktivedanta Research Center here in Puri. And in the meantime, we have a GoFundMe account, which Ashwin could tell you something about.
So can you name the person? Ashwin?
Yeah.
He's in the call. Amritanand, I can connect you, bro. He's in the call.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Amritananda Prabhu. I appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so it's a long wait for Sundara Prabhu. Please go ahead, Prabhu. Sorry. Go ahead.
Dandavats Prabhu. All glories to Prabhupada. Thank you for the nice class. I thought about a few things as I was listening to the class. So I heard this from a devotee that, when you chant Hare Krishna, you feel separation from the Lord. And you feel like, for a very pure and advanced devotee, you feel like you are going to leave your body because you cannot bear the separation of Krishna. And then you cool yourself down by chanting Hare Rama. So, then the soul doesn't leave the body. You hold it back. And then again you chant Hare Krishna, again, you feel for a pure devotee, he feels that, he's going to leave the body. So as a neophyte, some of the understanding I got was, the need for very mature devotees around us. So, as neophytes, at least, through many years of being a neophyte in devotional service, what I found is sometimes the devotional service is so intense for a neophyte, like separation or chastisement or difficulties. It's also new, like, we are only used to the pampering of, the material energy, and, we are used to the idea of entitlement. So when you first have to open up your heart for love, it's such a new experience as a neophyte. So, some difficulty in devotional service, for example, is so new to you, like you don't know how to even handle those emotions. So that is when I think you need the association of mature devotees who can like empathize, because you are neither, you don't know how to separate your material emotions from your spiritual emotions. So you are in a mix mixed state. Like, you don't know what's the spiritual emotion. How do you handle your spiritual emotion? How do you cool yourself down? Like, when say you are with the devotees, say suppose there is suddenly some separation or whatever. So I think that you need to have that fallback of mature devotees, so that when you really are like in a state of humility, you don't get into some sort of a loneliness, because as a neophyte you might end up being lonely when you hear like this world is all ultimately illusory. Krishna might accept you after millions of years. I think all those things, at least for me, as I grew up, it becomes very intense to the point that your sadhana starts suffering, or you become a depressed person. So I think the association of really mature devotees who can be that safety net for you, I think that's one thing I felt, because I think there is, like my Guru Maharaj, Rompad Maharaj used to say, that there is submission on one side and there is mercy on the other side. So you need the devotee association to show you that mercy when you are humble, and especially when you are unable to access mercy of Krishna by yourself. So, ekaki amar nahi paibe bala. So I think at least that's what I understood after struggling with myself for a very long time. And also, you need to be able to open up, because again you are from the material world, so which is always a place of comparison. So you are constantly comparing yourself with your the guy next to you. So you are used to that mentality as a neophyte. So to come out of that shell, again, I think it takes a very long time for people to, like, hey, I'm a learned devotee. I want people to see me as a learned devotee. I don't want people to see my anarthas. I want to, like all those, I think all this egoism or envy or lust or pride, I think they're all like, the root cause is the insecurity. So I think how much important the mercy and the maturity is required from pure devotees to to be that safety net, so that as you go through the purification and as you can handle yourself. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe I talk too much, but I would like to hear your thoughts.
In Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatana Goswami quotes Samoan Tantra, Gopaya Devatam Ishtam, Gopaya Gurumatmana, Gopaya Chanijam Mantam, Gopaya Nijamalikam. Gopaya means to hide, and it comes from the same bij dhatu as gopi. Gopi means someone who hides their feelings. And he's encouraging that we should hide our Ishta Day, we should hide our Guru, don't advertise our Guru. We should hide our mantra, we should hide our mala, don't advertise our japa and things. It doesn't mean that we deny those things, but we don't share that with normal people. When you're working a job, you don't go into Microsoft or something and start telling some non-devotee friend about your chanting or something. That's something private. But we need, as you said, we very much need to have association with like-minded devotees. Therefore, we are mentioning Rupa Goswami's instruction, Guyam Akyati Prichati, that we should inquire confidentially and speak confidentially. And that's really the purpose of the temples. But even honestly, in the temple, sometimes there's a mixture of people and we don't know everybody there. We also need to have our smaller groups. And I would very strongly encourage devotees to have programs in their home with 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, 8 or 10 intimate friends, where you can come together and you hear him chant in a deep way. It's very, very nourishing. It's very much required. As you're saying, it's such a very, very important thing. Thank you for sharing all that, Prabhuji. I appreciate it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Ashwin Prabhu, you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, we can't see you, but we can hear you. Now we see you.
Video is stuck. Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I really appreciated the class. And I liked 2 points. I mean, I liked the whole class, but 2 points which stuck out to me. One was the point you mentioned about darshan. And I was remembering last year in COVID when we couldn't go to the temple and we were all kind of, bereft of darshan. But then this reflection that darshan is not about, us going and, seeing the Lord and saying, thumbs up for the Shringar, but like really like presenting ourselves to the Lord. So I really appreciated that. And the second point, which I appreciated, was that Gaur Leela is still going on, whether it be with the Siddha Bakul, which is an associate of Lord Chaitanya, still, present with us, or when Srila Prabhupada came and his movement, which is still going on, and that's part of Gaur Leela. So I really appreciated those 2 points. I had a quick question, or maybe it's not a quick question. It's about like the last point you spoke about of what happens after the disappearance of Sri Guru. Sometimes we see that after, a person's Gurudev departs, they're struggling, they don't know what to do. They start seeking siksha from some other senior people. Sometimes they go to different sanghas, or they leave the institution for siksha. And then in other people we see, and of course everyone's different, when other people they see, they're trying to follow the instructions of their guru, serve the mission and follow the instructions. And it seems that, both of them, are wonderful Vaishnavas, but is one like the right thing to do, one the wrong thing to do, or are both the right for different people? Like, how do we kind of think about like what to do after the disappearance of Sri Guru in terms of like following the instructions versus seeking a siksha guru to continue to get personal guidance from a living guru?
I see 2 aspects in your question. One aspect is the principle itself. Is that a good principle or not?
Yes.
The second question I see is a particular person good or bad who's doing this? Are they right or wrong? And we should always remember that in the realm of personal relationships, it's not our business. It's not, your business, my business, who somebody who Brajaraman Prabhu marries or who he's friends with. It's not our business to judge or criticize that person for that. Rather, we can just work with him if he's a good person and he's friendly and nice with us, then I know that. And other things he does, that's his personal business. That's my personal look out of this, because I see that it is a very personal thing. And sometimes some devotees Srila Prabhupada, in one sense, left the mission of his guru. Someone could say like that. Of course, he never left Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he was inspired by him to create ISKCON. But someone could speak like that. So I'm slow to want to try to judge someone just because they've joined a particular institution or they've left a particular institution. Rather, I look at how they behave, because even sometimes people in our institution behave very badly. and I don't want them around, even though they may be a so-called member in good standing. But the general principle is that just like I was invited to, I live here in Puri, and there's a lot of Gaudiya Math devotees, so this is a topic I'm a little close with. I'm friends with a lot of them. We do our publication, many of them like it. I was invited some years ago to the Disappearance Festival of Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. And at that time, Bodhayan Maharaj, who was the Acharya, he called me to his room and wanted to speak to me privately. And he asked me, he said, since your Guru Maharaj has left, what happened to your godbrothers? And I said, oh, some of them have gone here and there. They've left the mission. They've gone to some other missions, some other persons. And he became very sober. And he asked me, he said, did your Guru Maharaj tell them to do that? And I said, well, no, but, and I was trying to stick up for them in a sense. I said, but Guru Maharaj always stressed sadhu sangha and that. And he became very grave. And he told me, he said, I don't mean to criticize anyone, but if your guru did not tell them to do that, I cannot say what will happen to them. So that's a general principle that I found amongst Vaishnavas all over, that you should be nishta to your Gurudev. We may be friends with many people, you know, Ashwin Prabhu, you're friends with many people who are not devotees. That's the nature of life. You may be friends with Christians and Muslims and whatever. And we can be friends with people also in different Vaishnava missions. But my Gurudev and my Gurudev's Seva Sangha, that's something very special that I want to be nishta to. That's our principle. But at the same time, I really don't like to try to judge people by just where they're physically at, because it's not such an easy thing. Not such a simple thing. Is that helpful?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hey, Sanjana, you have a question? Great.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Madhavananda Prabhu. Your class was really great. Thank you for it. Something I had a question about was, you mentioned about how you guys like forgot about your parents and like stuff when like in the 80s, and that was a thing. But it's not like, I mean, I like still like remember my parent. Trying to get to the point. So anyways, so like, I know when you're like Guru Maharaj passes away, you like follow like his instructions and you're like, you abide to him more because, you know, he's your guru and you got initiated by him and like he gave you a new like life. But so like what happens when your like actual like parents, let's say, pass away, and like how do you like go about and deal with that?
I have to tell you, it was very hard for me, especially when my mother passed away, honestly. I've never been a brahmachari, but I've definitely been a mamachari. And to this day, just right over near me, I'm looking at a picture of my mother right now. She helped me so much in my life. She was a very wise person. Actually, she started chanting japa a little before she left. She was also a nice devotee. But you know, I can tell you honestly, it's like a hole which never gets filled. You'll always feel some pain and some separation, but I want to give her the dignity of remembering her and of carrying on the good things that I learned from her. And I learned so many good things from my mother and from my father. We're both gone now. And I want to respect them and give them the dignity, not just of talking about what they looked like or what they liked to eat or, you know, different things they did, but remembering and living the good qualities that I got from them. And I feel close to my mother in that way, and my father, and I'm convinced that they'll be helped. I'll tell you a story about my mother real quick. Some years ago, I was in South India, and some devotees took me to see, they wanted me to go to some sadhu who does fortune telling kind of thing. And that's not my kind of stuff, you know. But anyway, we went there, and he gave me some shells. I don't know if you've ever and he told me to shake the shells in my hand, throw them on the ground, and what is your prayer? And I said, well, how can I serve my guru? That's my prayer. And he said some nice things about that. And then he said, do you have any other questions? And I said, well, not really. He said, you don't have any other questions? I said, well, my mother. I worry about my mother. And this was a few years before she came to India, a few years before she started chanting japa. And he told me, he said, he looked at the shells and whatever, he said, your mother, don't worry about her. She's more advanced than you are. And I when he said that, I have to confess, I thought, what is he saying? My mother at that time, she's not even a vegetarian. What does he mean? She's more advanced. How can she be more advanced than me? I'm living in India in the Dham and I'm chanting. And then she came and we spent a month or so together, and we went to different tirthas in Mayapur and different places. And I found a very astonishing thing. Once we went to Katwa, I was doing some research on Mahaprabhu's sannyas, and I was taking photos. And I asked my mother to stay in the car. Well, I told her, you want to come with me, you can, or you can sit in the car and read. And she said, I'll sit here and read. My father was a photographer. She was used to waiting and reading. And so I went and took some photos and did some research. And I came back after half an hour or so. And I was startled to find that there was a crowd of about 30 or 40 people gathered around the car. And just wherever we went, just people were very attracted to my mother. And I'd never seen anything like that. I don't get that personally. I've been living in India. I've never had that happen. 30 or 40 people gather around me like that. And I started to understand she's actually a very special person. So don't be like me. Don't think that all my parents are just some common people. You may not be able to understand what qualities they have, how exalted they are. And we should always appreciate that whatever good qualities I have, which have helped me to become a devotee or helped me to be attracted to this path, have come from my parents. Is that helpful?
Yeah. I mean, so basically recently my grandpa like passed away, and I guess like he's also kind of like your mother. He started chanting like 10 years before he passed away or something ish. So like I just wanted to know like how I should like go about or just think about that. Like he's dear to me, but he's like, I don't know. I guess like it was nice hearing from that.
Well, you're a good person. I can see that. You're a devotee. You're taking part in this. You have some interest in Krishna Katha. So some of those qualities come from your grandfather. But by his mercy, you have that body and you learn certain things from him. So be respectful and appreciate those qualities and things, and give him some dignity that you carry on as he would be happy. And you be a good representative, be a good granddaughter of him.
Thank you.
I think it's a really nice, straightforward question. I appreciate that. That's the best.
Okay. So Madhavananda, I had a couple of questions, but I just want to check. I want to be aware of the time. Is it okay? Or we can? Yeah,
I think we should be quick. Bhakti Rupa Prabhu, Prabhupada's disciples here with us, and he's waiting for breakfast. So
we can talk about.
And for you, it's about what, 8:35 or something at night, I think right now. It's getting late too.
Yes, Prabhuji. So we will we'll take that question later, Prabhu. I can ask you later. So with that, Prabhu, we'll conclude this session. So dear devotees, as you heard, Madhavananda Prabhu was in Seattle, and he was the temple president here in 1993 timeframe. And so Madhavananda Prabhu, I would like to humbly say that since you have been in Seattle and you gave the definition of darshan, so Radha Nila Madhav is eager for your darshan. So as the COVID situation subsides, Prabhu, so please make sure that when you visit US, you're able to make a trip to Seattle. With that, devotees, let's express our gratitude, not as a formalities from our heart, by loudly chanting Hari Bol 3 times. As you all saw, how Madhavananda Prabhu was an instrument for us to give us the blessing of Haridas Thakur. As Prabhu said, on the day of appearance and disappearance day, the personalities are very merciful, and Madhavananda Prabhu was able to get that blessing live from Jagannath Puri. So with that, let's loudly chant Hari Bol sincerely from our heart 3 times. Hari Bol!
Hari Bol!
Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Thank you, Madhavananda Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, dear devotees. You're very fortunate. You have one of the most beautiful Radharani deities in all the 3 worlds. I used to dress Radha Nila Madhav many times. It's very, very special.
Jai Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Our Radharani is very beautiful. We are very proud of it. Jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. And Murli, be nice to your mother, Murli, okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Pancha kalpa durubhishcha, kripa sindhubhishcha, kritanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha, ananda koti vaishnavendra ki jai.
Okay.